Welcome to the Temple of Peace. I'm just going to give a quick guided tour to the Temple 80 exhibition that we've put on for the 80th anniversary of the Temple of Peace. This self-guided tour. The temple was opened in 1938 on November the 23rd, but if we have a quick look just at the outside of the temple, it's beautiful columns with the reliefs of peace, justice and health at the top, and also at the base we have the foundation stone, which was laid by Lord Halifax in 1937. From these beautiful columns we head indoors, where we see the introduction to the Wales for Peace exhibition with a display of items from the opening ceremony. So we have things like the Order of Service, have some of the self-guided tour leaflets, and we have a display which includes things like Lord and Lady Davis's Christmas card friends, pictures from the service, an inkwell presented to Lord Davis, and the visitors book. Our Wales for Peace exhibition starts by exploring some of the peace symbols that have become familiar, including the white poppy used by peace movements, the red poppy, of course, that most people associate with remembrance, and the Wales for Peace icon, which fuses the two. Also importantly, the rainbow flag, which was used as a symbol of peace movements in the 60s, but for which we've also used the colours, the rainbow colours, to symbolise the different themes of the Wales for Peace stories. So, red, remembering war; orange, opposing conflict; yellow, offering sanctuary; green, championing equality; blue, building international solidarity; purple, inspiring future generations and youth work; and pink, working together, the story of the Temple of Peace. So here we are in the vestibule, and a few people have asked us why the peace flags are spelt wrong. It's actually pace, which is Italian for peace, and it was from a peace movement that associated with the anti-Iraq war in 2002. Our next port of call is that we go into the crypt of the Temple of Peace. Now, the crypt is where the Book of Remembrance is kept, as the temple was built to commemorate those who died in the First World War. And so, in many ways, we're descending into World War I at the beginning of the story, captured by the quote from Sir Edward Grey: "The lights are going out, the lamps are going out all over Europe. We shall not see them lit again in our lifetime." And then, of course, as the impact of the war became greater, we have a quote from the death of Hedwyn, the Welsh war poet: "Yr oil and I dead cry, ach bardd and I fedd, the festival in tears, and the poet in his grave." The quote from the Archfleurid in Birkenhead, when Hedwyn didn't come up to receive his Eisteddfod chair, has been killed in action in Passchendaele. We continue down to the crypt itself, and one of my favourite things within this is the huge painting wall by Kevin Sinnott. And here we have Kevin's book behind the canvas, open to the page where he actually describes his experience of painting war. We also have a little introduction, a couple of panels introducing the creation of the Book of Remembrance and indeed the creation of the Temple of Peace, before we come into the crypt itself. The Book of Remembrance is, as it has been since 1938, reposed on a stone of French marble and Belgian bronze, either side of it we have the easels that have the cover of the book and the beautiful gold leaf inscription in the inside. And the book is open on one of its 1,205 pages and 40,000 names, and we've been turning the pages in a ceremony at 11 o'clock each morning, reenacting the traditions of the 30s, 40s and 50s, when people used to come on pilgrimages from all over to come and visit the book. On the table within the crypt, we have this wreath created by Hazel Elston, an artist in Cardiff, of poppies, remembrance poppies of the different colours: red, military remembrance; white, peace; black, BME remembrance; and purple, remembering animals lost in conflict. We also have the soldier stories, a folder of soldier stories gathered by volunteers through the project. And we've got a few examples, such as this one of David Louis Clementson, who was one of Wales's BME soldiers. And we have examples of women in the Book of Remembrance, and examples from local stories, in this case from Aberystwyth, all about bringing that list of names to life. Also, in the crypt, we have the benches dedicated to George Emmett Davis, who was a conscientious objector and peacemaker. And we also have, normally on display up in the Temple Hall, this series of folders with different documents relating to the temple's heritage. So this particular folder is around the opening of the Temple of Peace. We have the actual order of service and the ceremony, so that people can look through and enjoy at their leisure. Have these from the 50th anniversary celebrations, a copy of the original booklet from that. And then from the creation of the temple, over here we have the architect's plans by Sir Percy Thomas, back in 1929-30. These are the plans that were put together for the construction of the building. We have the order from the laying of the foundation stone, my Lord Halifax, the order of service from that and some of the press cuttings. Then we have some stuff about the work of the League of Nations Union before the temple came into being. Things like the Peace and Goodwill message, the Women's Petition to America, and so on. As we come out of the crypt, we encourage people to leave a message of remembrance on one of these poppies, which we've been adding to our remembrance wall up here. We also have a very moving tribute from the Youth Peace and Goodwill message of Wales of 2014, entitled Tybed Wonder, which is about the loss of the First World War. A couple of interpretation panels finishing in the crypt reflect on how people across Wales felt at the end of the First World War and the desire for peace, and how they channeled that into action for peace, and also a little about how the Book of Remembrance has been used in the 80 years since it was consecrated here. As we come up out of the crypt, I have a quote from Welshman David Lloyd George, who was the Prime Minister who led Great Britain through the First World War. His quote from announcing the end of the war in the House of Commons, and also the programme for the peace of the world that had been proposed at Paris in 1919, but was not delivered and ultimately led to the Second World War. And then, as we connect to the rest of the exhibition, we have this very powerful quote from Kollwitz, who was a German sculptor who created many of the German war memorials. And it was, I think this is a very moving quote quoting itself, every war carries within it the war which will answer it. Every war is answered by a new war till everything is smashed. A reminder that pacifism is not a matter of calmly looking on, it is work, hard work. From the crypt, we then have the opportunity to go into the Hall of Nations, newly made back to its original title, where we have a few displays relating to the construction of the temple. Here are some of the images, the architect's drawings, the foundation stone ceremony in 1937. This is where we are now. And then the actual dedication ceremony in 1938. Lord Cecil, Minnie James, who opened the Temple of Peace, Percy Thomas, the architect, and of course Lord David Davis, who bequeathed the temple to the nation. The opening programme, there is Lord Davis up there. On this side we have some pictures from the opening of the building, and then work relating to the mission that the temple then went on to pursue, and commemoration of the Davis family and the work that they did towards peace. Our self-guided tour brochure also encourages you to have a good look at the architecture, the marble columns, and also the organ chamber up above Lord Davis, which is where services used to be played from. Into the Peace Corridor. There we are, where our exhibition continues up here. Now at this point, we have a very beautiful and special edition, which is Women, War and Peace by the lovely Lee Carrickstowe. And this is a photography exhibition of her wonderful pictures of women affected by war and peace. Really, really strongly advise you to take a good few minutes to enjoy and listen to their stories. I have this amazing release from Welsh Efforts for World Peace, a report by the League of Nations Union from the mid-1920s, lovely hangings, and we continue the stories of women, war and peace up to the top, where we enter our timeline of 100 years of peacemakers. And this is where we're entering the corridor with the council chamber. We have a reminder of our 7 themes, and then this incredible timeline exploring all of the different community stories gathered from across Wales over the course of the project on different themes of peace. Now, there's a lot to take in here, and so we have this little guide, Too Much Peace to Take In, which advises you on how you can follow red stories to follow the stories of war, green stories to follow the stories of women, blue stories to follow international solidarity, pink stories to follow the history of the Temple of Peace. There we are. The other really striking thing in the corridor here are these fantastic murals. So these were created by young people at the launch of the project on Armistice Day 2014, and also at the Earth Eisteddfod in 2015. And these were done by the artist Laura Savala, who captured young people's conversations as they were happening. And if you look closely, the conversations are slightly different between the two panels. See if you can spot the differences. Now, from the timeline, we now go into the council chamber. Now, the timeline is divided into 2 halves. Up to the council chamber, we have all the pre-Second World War stories, and after the council chamber to the end, we have Second World War till today. Within the council chamber itself, we then have some lovely archive displays. So this is the heart of the building, the heart of Wales's peace movement. That's it as it was back when it was opened and as we are today. So we've created these lovely coloured panels reflecting the different themes of the exhibition. This is where all of the events have been taking place through the Temple 80 programme. But we also then have these individual displays. So Lord Davis's library have books relating to the creation of the Welsh League of Nations Union. We have a display with some of the youth objects, time capsule, Russian doll, international exchange, some relating to refugees and sanctuary, the opening of the centre. And all these beautiful, beautiful books. And one thing which many people have commented on is the reintroduction of the Art Deco clock. Outside the council chamber, we also have this particular national treasure, which is, well, two national treasures. The first is the Women's Petition, so the Women's Peace Petition to America of 1923-24, which was signed by 390,296 women and presented to the women in America. And this one is the Religious Leaders Petition of 1925, signed by the leaders of all of the faiths in Wales. As you continue along the timeline, I particularly recommend having a look at some of these individual stories written by volunteers that gather sort of hidden histories on these little flip charts. And these sort of talk about a lot of the issues of war and peace very much from a community perspective. This is a lovely one around an international exchange project with volunteers working with BME communities in Riverside. And as we go downstairs, we have a strong focus on youth in the south stairwell. So we've got the youth messages of peace and goodwill, 1922 to today, all displayed in this beautiful montage. And a little bit of background. And as you come up to the window, see the lovely view outside. We then also have this fantastic display about the Peace Garden and the creation of the Peace Garden, along with some of the leaflets explaining about the many memorials that can be found in there. So the Peace Garden was created 30 years ago in 1988 for the 50th anniversary of the temple, and today there are over 40 memorials to peacemakers out there in the garden. So from our Peace Garden stories to the committee rooms and the responses of young people today, what we've titled The Heart of Peace. Here we have the lovely Hannah of our interns a couple of years ago with this fantastic yarn-bombed tree at the National Eisteddfod in Abergavenny. And then in the committee rooms we have some reflections on peace. So within room 39 here, it's dominated by this fantastic map. This map of the League of Nations mandates from the 1930s, which is really, really worth having a good pore over. Just goes to show the extent of peacemaking activities that the League of Nations is involved with. And then within the room, we have these displays of young people's artworks. So this is Young Peacemakers Awards from Menai Bridge earlier this year, and the various contributions that they have made. And we've also got these leaflets that talk about all of these artworks from the young people's own words themselves. So you can see what it was that inspired them to do these responses. And then we have a number of artist responses as well. We've got this fantastic installation by Will Salter, which gives an alternative guide to the Temple of Peace. So you can explore it and sort of feel the space very, very differently. This is where we are. And then we also have, as well as these beautiful hangings, we also have music by John Berry, which is playing in the different spaces as visitors are in. Each of the rooms having a different musical score, and then when those are woven together, they form an overall piece. We also have these wonderful poems by Ness Owens, who is a poet from Anglesey, and she's written these poems in response to the different spaces. Cove, in memory of the Crypt, I Ferched Cymru, the Women's Petition, Ademel, the temple itself, March, the Peacemakers Campaign, and World Peace Day, youth perspectives. Room 38, we have rededicated to Robert Davis, who founded UNA Exchange and was an international volunteer in the International Youth Service in the 1960s. And there he is to inspire future generations again. And within here, we've got a sort of a living room for peace perhaps, where we have films projecting with either young people's digital stories, and we also have the Temple's 80th anniversary film. We also have this range of books that people can delve into to find out more depth about some of the issues and the topics behind the exhibition. And finally, people can leave a peace message. What in the world do you care about? On our peace tree. And they can fill in a peace pledge on one of these pieces of paper and hang it up to add to the Voices for Action to build a better world. As we complete our tour, we have a couple of then and now sponsors on Peacemakers. And then at the reception desk, we have a range of postcards that people can buy to be able to share their inspiration. As well as the postcards, there's also these new guides to the Welsh National Garden of Peace, so that you can, following your visit, go out and explore the garden and the monuments that are within it as a peace trail. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the Wales for Peace exhibition, and I hope you'll come and enjoy it through November and beyond. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much.